The God in the Old Testament is the most unpleasant character in all of literary fiction. He is jealous and proud of it, unjust, unforgiving, a control freak, vindictive, bloodthirsty, an ethnic cleanser, a misogynist, he's homophobic, and he's racist, infanticidal, genocidal, filicidal, megalomaniacal, masochistic, and capriciously malevolent bully. And this is your God? I would like to add, just like a trans activist flinches when they hear he or she, I want everybody to flinch in the same manner when you hear Muslim child. And I'm not talking about diving for cover. I'm talking about the fact that every child is a victim of indoctrination. Same for Christian children and same for all religious children. And you can't argue with that, can you? Children are too young to know where they stand on religion, just like they're too young to know where they stand on politics. You wouldn't say my child is conservative, would you? Or, God forbid, reform. Think about it. How ridiculous does this sound? There's an invisible man in the sky that watches everything you do. This invisible man has a special list of 10 things that he doesn't want you to do. And if you do them, then you will go to the special fiery, smoking, burning place where you'll burn for the rest of the time. But he loves you. Then there was a man who was born to a virgin mother. That man is also fatherless. The fatherless man once upon a time came back to life after 3 days of being dead and buried. 40 days later, the man went on top of the hill and bodily disappeared into the sky. If you murmur thoughts into your head, the fatherless man and his father, which is also him, can hear you and is also able to simultaneously hear everybody else's thoughts in the world. If you do bad or good, the fatherless man sees all, even if nobody else does. Also, the fatherless man's virgin mother never died, but she ascended to heaven. Bread and wine blessed by a priest who must have testicles. The Eucharist ritual is believed to become the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus Christ. This is believed to cause the bread and wine to change through the power of the Holy Spirit. The bread and wine's appearance, such as its colour, taste, smell, and feel, remains the same, but its substance is believed to be changed. One might say all of that sounds ridiculous. What do we think? We don't know. Pause this video right now. Go and read the God Delusion
by Richard Dawkins. And when you've read it, you can join us for the discussion.
Or you can join us anyway, because we're going to tell you all about it. His name's Joseph.
And his name's Elijah. And welcome to the Aisha Library.
You like that little twist there?
Well, you freestyling. Freestyling now, are we?
But yes.
Ranting into freestyling.
We're going to talk about the book quickly without any spoilers, and then we're going to get right into it. None of these are our opinions, but this is a review of the book.
Is there really any spoilers as such? You really know what he's going to say from the title of the God Delusion. Yeah. He's not going to be like, pray your 5 prayers a day.
One thing I will say is that this book freed my mind. You don't realise how ridiculous and culty religion is. Sounds, should I say, because we were brought up religious, so we were indoctrinated, as he says, into believing, and belief is the default. So I can understand why people don't believe, right? But I've never thought about it through the eyes of an atheist. So they live their life, and they have to deal with this stuff, this make-believe, because it's make-believe to them. And it's like everybody, or most people, take it seriously, and there's like no evidence.
Yeah.
So I've never noticed how absurd it sounds to them, because we've always been brought up.
I think there's loads of things that you could probably say that about, though, and I think it's one of the tools that atheists
like being
always
a Man U
have.
fan, innit?
That's a myth
I don't
as
know.
well.
How can you like those
That's
guys?
a myth, you know? But I think the human experience, as we know it, is built on partaking in things that don't actually exist, on abstract concepts. And I think one of the tools atheism has, and I truly believe this is actually the devil's work, because I heard this quote one time. It should be quoted today, in fact. The greatest trick that the devil ever pulled was convincing people that he didn't exist, right? And obviously that's a quote meant to get the grey matter, meant to get the cogs turning in your brain and think, But what I think is interesting is atheists make it seem like religious people are the only ones playing make-believe. Like you said, there are thousands and thousands of people who go to a football stadium to watch 22 men kick a football around. Yeah. There are thousands of people. Do you know what I mean? It's a religion. There are thousands of people, who will fight wars and kill and murder and, enslave based upon some imaginary lines that we've drawn on the map. We call them countries. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They're lines. The countries do not end or begin anywhere, but they do in our minds, you know. So atheists will act like that all makes sense, you know. I'm a patriot, you know, that makes sense based on imaginary lines.
I completely agree. I don't think anyone else can disagree.
Yeah.
But my standpoint, before we get into this, or before we get into how mad and evil the Bible is, is I don't think it matters whether God's real or not, but it matters if we believe and live in a certain way, because we have certain ideals and beliefs that came from the Word, and it benefits our lives, and without it, who knows where we'd be. So, you know, we read the book on Christianity, so we know how much it's influenced our life. You see, I'm linking in our other videos, so go and watch that.
Exactly.
But yeah,
so pause this video and watch it.
Go and watch. Yeah. But yeah, one thing I didn't know, and he did say a lot of people who are religious. I mean, we were brought up Muslim, so it's understandable if we haven't read the Bible, which I have, but no, I don't remember all this type of stuff. But a lot of religious people haven't read the Bible, and we're gonna go through some of the worst bits of the Bible. But I want to say in the Bible's defense that this was written in a different time to us. So it was written around the period of times where people were savages. So, you know, certain things that they would do, like slaving and killing and wiping out, that was normal business. It's normal business to them. Yeah, so if the Bible came down in a reformed, like, for us type of people, there are people that back then, they'd read this and be like, what do you mean I can't rape and kill and slave? What are you talking about? They would never have gone for it. So I think it had to be close enough for them and close enough for us. It's supposed to be timeless, maybe, because nothing can be timeless, but it's supposed to at least span a certain amount of time. But yeah, Samuel chapter 15, what is it? Verse 15, chapter or what?
I believe it's chapter, then verse.
Yeah. Samuel chapter 15, verse 3. This is what the Lord Almighty says. Now go and strike Amalek and devote to destruction all that they have. Do not spare them, but kill both man and woman, child and infant, ox and sheep, camel and donkey. That's what he says.
Everybody.
So basically, wipe them out.
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah, of course. Wipe them out, all of them.
So that is definitely overkill. You know, what does someone have to do for you to wipe them out like that?
He displeased me.
Displeased God.
He displeased me.
Yeah, so cool.
This isn't even written. You didn't even write the thing here. Anyways, I'm pretty sure people will know where this is from. Kill every male among the little ones, and every woman who has known a man by lying with him. But those women who have not known a man by lying with him, you may keep alive for yourselves. The for yourselves on the end bit actually makes it a lot worse than it would have been without the for yourselves. Like, keep them alive. Oh, for yourselves. Enjoy them. So enjoy them. Enjoy them. So that kind of ties back into what you're saying about the misogynistic aspects of the Bible, etc. But, you know,
I wouldn't say it's misogynistic. I mean, that's what it's for.
Exactly.
I'm joking.
He's adopted, guys.
But adopted by God. Yeah, who's got the last laugh now?
Listen, I'm a child of God.
I'll be keeping him for myself.
But yeah, it's a lot of them that does come across as megalomaniacal and genocidal and just insanely murderous. But at the same time,
who are we to
listen? Humans do this, man. We dropped 2 bombs on Japan and whatnot.
Yeah, we can't really say nothing, can we?
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Look, here is my virgin daughter and his concubine. I will bring them out to you now, and you can use them to do whatever you wish. But as for this man, don't do such an outrageous thing. Judges chapter 19, verse 24. It's not as bad. I mean,
it's not as bad, but you definitely know what he's suggesting. You definitely know what he's suggesting.
But and his concubine. I thought a concubine is a woman's side man.
No, it's the opposite. Concubine is the side bitch, basically. I believe.
No, I'm pretty sure a mistress is the man's side and a concubine is the woman's. That's what I've been led to believe, because I've read a few pieces of literature that say that. Because they use mistress even 1,000 years ago. They use mistress.
I've been operating under the belief that concubine is.
You're probably right.
Well, yeah, that's fine. Well, I'm gonna have to look it up. Matthew chapter 10 verse 34. Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. I think that should be
sounds
quote of the
cool.
day. That's
That sounds
cold.
cool.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cold.
Man didn't come to civilize you.
He
man.
literally said, "I don't want a dead no beef. I don't want a sword it out."
Sword it. I want to sword
Hey,
it.
there we
out.
go.
I want to dead the beef.
Do you think this
I'm
how-
gonna sword it out?
Do you know? Do you think this is how rappers freestyle? They just start saying stuff till it comes to
Godly things. Flip through the Bible. What am I gonna spit in today?
Or ungodly things if you're certain rappers.
Chapter 10, verse 3a. I will be sanctified. Let me start again. Chapter 10, verse 3a. I will be sanctified in them and glorified. That's Moses telling Aaron that his sons were burned to death to sanctify and glorify God. Aaron says, or it says, and Aaron held his peace. Aaron watched in silence as God burned to death his sons. Moses tells Aaron's cousins to drag the burned bodies out of the camp, and he warns Aaron not to mourn the death of his sons or God will kill him too, along with everybody else.
Man said, if I catch you crying, if I catch you weeping,
That means you're a sinner. You're supposed to be happy.
It's
That
supposed
I'm
to
purifying your
rejoice
bloodline.
for
Yeah.
those who
Bloody
ascend.
hell.
Yeah, it sounds bad. Doesn't it?
Hold it back.
Literally.
Smite us all.
Luke chapter 14 verse 26. Smite is like a word. That's a godly word. We're talking like God does not kill, God smites. That sounds
Imagine
great greatness
someone
in
said
that.
to you, I'm going to smite you.
You literally be like, wow,
You look
should I
like
call the
you're not
police?
qualified to say
Do you know
this
what I mean?
sort of
You
thing.
don't have the facilities for that, big man. Luke chapter 14 verse 26. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. This is where the jealousy of God comes in, because he says like
You have to hate everybody and
he
only
says
love me.
you like nothing above me, or even on the same level as
Or
me,
not
or
even
even
below.
one, or even too close to me.
Yeah.
You know, you must know.
According to the Bible, these things warrant the death penalty. Cursing your parents, committing adultery, making love to your stepmother or daughter-in-law, homosexuality, it's a big difference there, isn't it?
Huge difference.
One's okay, one's not okay. Marrying a woman and her daughter, and of course, execution for working on the Sabbath. The children, of course,
I'd be finished there.
the children of Abraham.
Not going to work.
The children of Abraham were out on Sabbath, and they came upon a man gathering sticks. They promptly arrested him and asked God what to do with him. Apparently, God wasn't in the mood for half messages, because he was put to death. They stoned him to death for working on the
of
Sabbath.
course.
He wasn't even working; he was gathering sticks.
He knew the law. He knew the
But
law.
think about it. Apart from the Sabbath, and one could argue, if these were all punishable by death, the world would be a better place.
Yeah, come on.
Homosexuality? No, I'm joking. But
Yeah, it's like
committing
adultery,
cursing your parents, marrying a woman and her daughter, all of these things we don't need to be doing,
and we don't. You know,
unfortunately. But yeah, and working on Sabbath is a bit.
that is.
I don't know, if we all had a day off, life would maybe be better. If it was
I
family
get
day.
really annoyed when the post office closes early.
Exactly.
Let me just say that.
See, God's right again.
Yeah.
He's right again. So yeah, are you gonna go? Finally, I don't know if you. No, just forget that. Just go 2 points.
You sure?
I don't know how much you got. How much?
There
you
was
got?
only one left.
All right, go on.
Let's say it. Psalm 37, chapter 9, verse 9. Sorry. Happy is he who repays you for what you have done to us. He who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks. I feel like the use of the word dashes is incredibly.
That cannot be an old word.
That can't be, King James Bible.
Yeah,
Someone must have updated that.
yeah, 100%. He dashes it.
That's mandem on the wall. That's not God.
Baby
God
on the
said,
wall.
God said that ain't the word.
Baby on the wall, more
That
like.
ain't my word. But yeah. Look, there are some aspects of the Bible that are
Tone deaf.
incredibly
Is the word that they like to use.
Oh yeah, but it's like you said, the Bible wasn't written last year, So it's like,
let's excuse it.
should I go first?
Actually, you know what? Let me just say this. I think it's also interesting how in the book he highlights how religion is designed to indoctrinate children as early as possible, and technically pushing religion on children could be considered as a form of child abuse. The author would speak about many cases of children who had nightmares because they were worried about burning for eternity in hell. To which the priests would say, I'd rather the children suffer with nightmares than actually burn in eternity. And it's like, well, yeah, that's great, but if you don't believe in that, then it's nonsense. You get what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying as well, and it's like, yeah, we're sitting here and we're thinking, oh, children have nightmares. That's what they do. Children have nightmares. That's what they do.
Yeah, but he was talking about the psychological PTSD,
Right,
and he
cool.
was milking it, basically.
He was definitely milking it. And this is what I say, like, I find atheists to be a little bit... It's tough because there's a connect between, I'll talk about this later on, there's a connect between atheism and super duper intelligent people, because...
That's what they said?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, they kind of use that as, that must mean I'm right, we're the smart ones, look at you, the dumb fucks. But at the same time, it requires you to suspend, you know, your belief. It requires you to suspend the centers of your brain.
Your doubt.
Faithful.
Suspend your doubt, probably, and just believe. What do you say?
No, I'm saying being intelligent requires you to just, you know, you rely on what you can see.
Yeah.
You rely on what you can verify.
Your senses,
Scientists,
which doesn't really make any sense.
Which doesn't make any sense because they're untrustworthy and tricky every single day of your life. But this is why they're kind of... There's a connect between intellectuals and atheists, but what they do is they deliberately pass their words and they deliberately, you know, emphasize certain concepts and ignore other concepts that push you in this direction, like anybody does when they're talking about anything. So I'm not saying they're necessarily bad people for it, but you know, they act like, we want is the truth when it's not necessarily.
Yeah, I would argue that's probably the biggest argument for God, and our biggest argument for God is that we don't know. And
Exactly.
the reason why I say that is because you cannot trust your senses. So anything that you're taking in from the outside world is not that it doesn't exist, but it's not what it really is. It's not what it really
It's
looks
not a
like.
reliable source.
So you can't possibly figure it out.
And I saw this video on YouTube one time, but this atheist, it was supposed to be a caricature of Neil deGrasse Tyson. That's what it was. It was an animated caricature of a black physicist talking to somebody else. Obviously, Neil deGrasse Tyson is a black astrophysicist.
I watched something about him.
I watched loads of things about him, but it was an animated video of him, and he was explaining why God doesn't exist or whatever. And the other guy went, "Prove it." And that's like the whole. And at the end of the day, no one has any proof for anything. So like, you can waffle, you can watch us sitting here, you know, week after week talking about it. Prove it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do it. Go.
You can't.
You can't.
Shut up.
So this is
Leave
why I
me
say
alone.
in these debates, people tend to leave on the team that they came with. They prefer to leave dance with the girl that brought me. You know.
Never.
Should I go?
Should I go? How much you got?
I've got 7.
Well, I've got 11. And I haven't even started.
Oh yeah, you got all this foolish intros and all these things
That was
that you've
just
been waffling
intros.
about. All right, go on, you go.
Let me just... This isn't even my first point, but this is the last bit. The beauty of sitting on the fence means that I can say I'd like to know his opinion on Christmas, because just like religion can bring misery, it can also bring happiness. Christmas is the biggest example of child indoctrination in the history of the human race. What child isn't going to like Christmas? You know, they receive gifts for doing nothing. Of course, people who aren't Christian will obviously celebrate Christmas too. And I'd like to know if the author does or not, and where he stands on that. And I know you can't answer that, but we need to bring him here.
Yeah, literally.
Listen to me.
100%.
You know?
Pause this video right now.
And I want to know if he says things like, "Oh, that's what did I say? God forbid," and all of that type of stuff.
Yeah. I love catching people out with those though, because it's just like it's
you
part of your
don't mean
programming.
it. Yeah,
it's
yeah,
part of
yeah,
your
yeah,
programming,
yeah.
but it's like it's very hard to like. That's an instant slam dunk.
But it doesn't mean you obviously believe in.
No, but it's an instant slam dunk.
He's real then.
Exactly.
He's real.
Because you're literally just like, why are you saying his name then?
Exactly.
Like, it's within you, you know.
Oh, for God's sake.
100 things like that, literally. Like, in fact, I was talking to somebody at
Jesus
work about
Christ.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All of that. I was talking to somebody at work about it as well.
Diabolical.
And I was kind of
keep going. I'm gonna keep going.
yeah, you got loads in it. And I was kind of trying to like just poke the bear with her and see like if I could get, because she's an atheist, and I was like seeing
She's
if
a fat atheist. Look at there.
what did I say? I said they don't make men who think like me anymore. She was like, thank God. I was like, exactly, God, shut down. And there's not really much you could say to that.
Yeah.
But imagine if there were no religions, no honour killings, no 9/11, no witch hunts, no women being flogged for showing an inch of skin. So that's a quote that's verbatim from the book. Well, Richard Dawkins, we also wouldn't have had flying machines and surgical tools and timekeeping devices, the Italian Renaissance era and several other eras of great artworks, and the list goes on. Of course, you can bring up all the bad things that have spawned from religion and what even is bad anyway. But if you purposefully leave out the good that has come from religion as well, you can more easily paint it as a useless delusion that never did a thing of good for anybody. Of course, it's entirely possible that all of the inventions I mentioned could have still been developed without religion, but then there have been mass murders and terrorism and insanity that has happened without religion also, hasn't there?
Of course.
In fact, according to a book called the Encyclopedia of Wars, out of 1,700 odd recorded wars between 8000 BC and 2000 AD, only 7% of those have been started for religious reasons. So when I was reading the initial bits of the book, I was just listening to the things that he was saying, and especially his first point as well, because I don't know if you remember, before he even made his first point, he literally said, you might think this, I address this in chapter 1. You might think this, I address this in chapter 2.
Yeah.
You might think this, I address it in chapter 3, 4, and 5. And he was setting it up like he said, by the end of this book, I will utterly, dismantle everything you have ever... I started getting scared.
Well, I got worried, actually.
Scared.
I got worried, and that's obviously a mark of a good book.
That's what I said. I was I don't need to change who I am.
He didn't... What we need is a punch-up between him and somebody else, a verbal punch-up, because he was making points, and some of them were weak, and I'll go into
the first one was weak. This is what I'm saying. He was literally just like, there's no evidence, and, religion causes all this bad stuff, and I was literally just like, I've heard this before, I want to hear some stuff that I've never heard before.
I read some reviews, and people were basically slating him because he doesn't know enough about the religion to talk about it. Basically, he was getting things wrong and stuff like that.
We should make a book called The Dawkins Delusion.
My first point: morals without God means that it's very difficult to know where you stand. I mean, it's simple when questions, when it's fine when it's simple questions. We all, like for example, we all believe it's morally wrong to commit murder, but when you add any level of complication, it gets tricky. So, for example, if I were to say to you, is the systematic butchering of 92 billion animals a year in the slaughterhouses wrong? You ask 100 people, you'd get a multitude of answers. God says that humans rule over the land and animals, so in his book, it's okay. We, as mere mortals, could never agree on that topic. So the only problem with not worshipping God... Well, this is another point. But the point is, you ask someone about the slaughter of animals, the senseless, mindless murder, you can't possibly say. That's what I wanted to ask Richard Dawkins.
Yeah.
What does he think? Is that okay? Is that justified? Do we stand above the animals? And who says...
It's not even... Exactly. It's not even necessarily that we do it for sustenance, because like I said, if it was a hunter-gatherer tribe now, and we have to go out with spears and hunt down buffalo to eat tonight, that's one thing. But the fact that we, do you know how much we waste? Oh my God. I read this thing that said we waste 86 million pounds a year in chickens in Britain. 86 million pounds a year.
The male chickens get murdered immediately. As soon as they hatch, they get murdered.
Because they can't. Because there's meat. That's the only thing that they...
Exactly.
They serve.
They'll be wasting food and antibiotics on them and whatnot.
There is a thing... There's a dish
bludgeon them.
Yeah, there's a dish called foie gras where they force a funnel down the neck of the goose and they force feed it grain until its liver expands. They force feed it whatever until its liver expands, and then they slaughter it and then cook the liver, and then that's foie gras. And people eat and go, the flavours, flavours, and it's like this big.
So where do we stand morally on all of these type of things? Maybe that one I think is probably a bit easier for some people, but without God saying, here we are.
What's interesting as well is that God says man rules over the land, and we agree. Do you know what I mean? We are like, yes. So, for example, you have a child, that child gets bitten by a dog, you're putting the dog down. Why?
Yeah, exactly.
Because we rule over the land, you cannot touch the royal family. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, there's areas where we just agree with God.
Yeah.
Children must be indoctrinated. Must.
You have to.
Author Richard Dawkins paints the religious indoctrination of children by their parents as a bad thing. He was like, children, we must let them run free. And here's the kind of ideas that he was just like sneakily trying to install in people's heads.
And to find their own way.
Do you know what I mean? Like, they're children. They don't know what they're doing. They're vulnerable. They're at risk. There is no such thing as a Christian child or a Muslim child, he says. And here's why I kind of disagreed with you when you said there's no such thing as a conservative child. The reason conservatives have been in power for so long is because to them it's a way of life. And to us, Labour's just Labour. So you can grow up in a conservative household and you'll be talking to politics with your parents, and it's just... It's a household thing.
That's the that's the stereotypical conservative household. But I don't
that
know
stereotype comes from somewhere.
But I don't think most of the people in conservatives I like that.
Maybe not,
I don't
but I
think
guess,
most
but
people like
maybe
that.
not. But check this out:
It's a
the
wide range.
stereotypical Labour household is, why am I voting anyways? Conservatives going to win anyways, and every single one of us are like that.
Black people.
But how many black people are there in Britain? How many black people are there in London?
Too much.
It's like 3% as well.
Too much.
To get them numbers down. But there is no such thing as a Christian child or a Muslim child, he says. They are only children of Christian or Muslim parents. Parents who program their children with their own beliefs, hence why inheriting the religion of one's parents is so ubiquitous. What this fails to take into account is that children need to be indoctrinated. Children need to be told that stealing is wrong when they are too young and stupid to question it. They need to be told what is good and what is evil before they can question it, so that those concepts become the basis of how their brains work. This is kind of what the basis of empathy is. Like, you feel for others and you can tell what's good and what's bad because it was installed into your brain long before your memory was even finished developing. You know how it is. Children get to a certain age and start asking why all the time, even when it's something good for them. Exactly. Parents need to hijack their children's brains and upload permanent data there before the children realise that they might disagree. And this is kind of how we get society. This is how we prevent, sociopaths and non-conformance from society, because you learned it when you were young. And there's loads of things we learn when we were young. We learned stealing is wrong. We learned that, it's mine. Children understand the basis of property. And there's all kinds of ways we indoctrinate children.
Yeah. And I've actually got a point on that.
Exactly. And he painted the entire thing. But he focused on only the religious aspect of it and said we need to let them run free. How about we don't tell children anything? How about we just send them into the jungle? Exactly. And then they can just come back out fully formed?
Exactly. Why is it children of a young age believe anything you tell them without question? Is it because they're stupid? No, it's because of natural selection. A child that unquestionably believes what his parents tells him, i.e. don't swim in crocodile-infested waters, is more likely to stay alive and pass on his subordinate adolescent genes, whereas the children who don't listen do not survive to reproduce. So I thought that was quite interesting, because we look at children like they're dumb, but they're designed to be like that.
So we learn to be mistrustful or distrustful. Sorry.
Well, we learn to trust our parents.
I'm saying as we get older, we learn to be distrustful of basically everybody.
We learn.
Because if you're out on the street and somebody's like, if you go around that corner, bears are going to eat you, you'd probably be like, bears be doing around here. You're definitely lying.
Yeah, exactly.
The child will be like, better not go around there. Told to run into the bears.
Like, no, mummy. To you.
Intelligent design. In chapter 4, in what Dawkins refers to as the central argument of the book, he talks about the temptation of believing in God or an intelligent designer on the basis that the universe as we perceive it is too complex to have come about by random chance. Dawkins argues that any such universe's creator would be even more complicated by contrast, and thus we're back to square one. If God created the universe, who created God? Now, my first thought about this, for something that he called the central argument of the book, my first thought about this was that this, which came first, the chicken or the egg style line of reasoning, is disappointing, never-ending, and inconclusive. And it's literally just like, you haven't really done anything here. Do you know what I mean? You've literally just said, yeah, but who created God? Ha! Got you. It encourages us to ponder a question that we will never actually know the answer to, and then mask atheist-leaning bias as the default. Just because we cannot explain how any God might have come into being, that doesn't mean that we can say with good confidence that there isn't one. Even if we knew everything that there was to know about earthly science and logic, we still wouldn't be able to rule out the possibility of a God, and we're a long way from knowing everything about anything. We can't leave our own planet and land on the one next to it. We can't explain why 27% of the universe's mass is invisible. We call that dark matter. There are so many doors that we don't have the keys to, and the idea that God couldn't or probably doesn't exist because we can't explain where his father is just seems idiotic. We can't explain where your father is either, you joker.
Bastard.
But I just found it so, this is just, you're not coming with any kind of, I don't feel
you didn't actually open this book thinking you was going to get some conclusive answer though.
But I didn't know. Obviously not conclusive answer. Obviously it was going to be ideas. And I thought one thing that I did actually kind of commend him on is where he said the object of this book is not to say God doesn't exist, but it's to show that scientifically he probably doesn't exist.
Yeah,
so I thought it
was
intelligent wording. So I definitely liked how he did that, because the point of science is to know what you can prove, and you can't prove a negative, which is why saying prove it to atheists is so effective. because you
Yeah, but
can't
they
prove
say
a
prove
negative.
it to us back. And
But that's the funny thing. We literally said, you're the one that said he doesn't exist. Prove he doesn't exist. You can't.
yeah, but they'll say you're the one that says he doesn't
Waffle
exist.
up. Prove he doesn't exist. Go on. But the thing is, religion's based on faith. It's never been based on evidence.
Yeah, but
Science
this
is
is
based
what-
on evidence.
yeah, but this is-
and you don't have any. I've got
Exactly.
loads of faith. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying.
Leaving me to believe what I believe in it. Literally. See, I've got a point that's similar to yours, and I want to say it now. But then, if I start saying the points, I'm just going to lose what I've said and what I haven't
Just
said. So I'm gonna...
say this one and then go back. And just don't forget
That's what I
what
did
it was.
before. All right. Life on our planet happened by chance, not by God. There are 30 billion planets in our galaxy and about 100 billion galaxies in the universe. So an estimation of a billion planets in the universe would be a conservative estimate. So let's say the chance of life was spontaneous. So let's say that the chance of life spontaneously being created by itself was staggeringly improbable. Let's say that it was 1,000,000,000 to 1. And yes, that's a ridiculously small chance. To put that into perspective, if you went to your doctor for, let's say, a COVID vaccine and he said this vaccine had a 1% chance of working or a 1 in 100 chance of working, you'd be like, what? But yeah, if you were to say that the chance of life spontaneously being created was 1,000,000,000 to 1, there are so much planets in the universe that there would be life on 1,000,000,000 planets. So it's starting to sound like a matter of probability, not divine intervention. And obviously, we don't know how much planets there are. So you speculated for one.
Literally.
But for two, life on 1,000,000,000 planets, that does sound like a lot though.
But that's the funny thing, that could easily be possible.
But
That
then,
could easily be the case. But it's like, you said life. Like, we're not talking necessarily bipeds with societies and buses and jobs and things. It could be life.
Yeah, but
like,
then
there's probably life growing under your bed.
But there is life going on in my bed.
Do you know what I mean?
There's technically life going on. But
What, in your socks?
you don't want to know. But yeah, so he's basically saying it wasn't really special creatures because according to God, we are special creatures made in his image. So if it's a case of there's life on multiple planets, then that wasn't written in the book.
Use the Earth, we've got the Earth Bible. We didn't get the other editions. We need to pay extra for the DLC. Do you know what I mean? We didn't get the expanded packs.
That's volume 2.
Do you know what I mean? Microtransactions.
Oh, God.
Being an atheist just sounds cooler. Whatever people say about their motivations for moving toward atheism, and I'm sure the motivations are plentiful. For example, to be fair to some atheists, Dawkins did talk about people who felt trapped in their faiths or forced into a way of life that didn't quite match their identity. He also mentioned that there is an uncanny connection between intellectuals, physicists, etc. being atheists. I've always found this a bit ha ha ha, we've got all the smart book people and you have dumb priests. I think a major reason why atheism appeals to more and more people is because it takes no effort at all to ignore something that you can't see. Like you have a contract with your employer, right? That represents a commitment that your employer says, I will pay you to show up to work, right? Now, if every day that you showed up, you notice your boss just ain't around, ain't in his office, ain't walking around checking up on nobody, just wherever he is, it's where he is. After a while, you just be like, I can't really be asked doing this job anymore. I'm just going to sit
Especially
here.
if you're not doing it.
I'm just going to sit here. Because that's what humans do. We just want to do what we want to do, innit? Like, we don't really want to... He's not even here. He's not seeing. He's not watching the cameras. He's just nowhere. If you don't do your job, you get fired. And the threat of being fired, of being sent to hell, keeps you in line, which is a similar concept to religious people praying and giving in charity because they don't want to go to hell. I think a chief reason why people drift toward atheism is because it's so much less effort. Religious people have to do so much. Pray and give charity and don't swear and dress modestly and stay away from the clubs and don't drink. And we want to do all of those things.
Yeah, like forget all of that.
Do you know what I mean? It's like we want to do all of those things. So that's why we say...
That's why we say we're Christian, so we can do it all.
Humans want to do what humans want to do, man. We want to go to the club. We want to drink. We want to smoke. Atheism is like, you can have all of that and more. And, you know, don't have to go to church.
You don't have to feel guilty about it as well.
You don't have to feel guilty about anything. You can
Well, that's
just
the
live your
problem
life.
with
Get as many gal pregnant as you want. Do what you want.
This is the problem with atheism. That it's
Encourages hedonism.
That's exactly what I was going to say, word for word. And hedonism only leads to destruction, which is via addiction and then death. Because your addiction only kills you. That's what happens. So that's why religion is so useful, because it saves you. And anything else, it saves you from yourself.
Yeah, it encourages you to go against the darkest parts of yourself. It encourages you to honour and obey your parents. It encourages marriage. It encourages children. It encourages furthering the human race. It encourages being good to other people. It encourages so many good things.
And the slaughter of your enemies.
And the demise of your enemies.
Smite them.
And a total obliteration of your enemies. Because remember, you're wiping them out. They're not just killing 2 or 3.
Kill the sheep, the ox.
Oh. And enjoy the women.
What did they say? The lambs to yourselves or something. The goats. Atheism is a dirty word. Atheists are the least...
It's like homeschooled.
Yeah. Let me start again. Atheism is a dirty word. Did you know atheists are the least trusted category? The American public were asked to rate different categories of people, and they would sooner vote for a homosexual than they would an atheist. Atheism is political suicide, which is technically discrimination. But nobody cares about the atheists.
Of course not.
They ain't got a god looking after them.
That's what I'm saying.
This is why officially there has been no atheist president of the USA. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is the first openly atheist British Prime Minister. Some have previously been privately agnostic but kept public formalities. And we didn't even vote Keir Starmer in. I mean, we did out of the two politicians, but we had to.
Well, out of the two parties.
We couldn't keep Rishi in.
Yeah, Rishi didn't want to stay.
Rishi didn't get voted in.
Rishi didn't even want to be in. He wanted to go back to California. He was living with his money.
But one thing I did find interesting is...
I didn't even know Keir Starmer was atheist.
Neither did I, actually.
Yeah, I don't think you should be allowed to be Prime Minister of Great Britain.
Well, this is the thing, right? Because they have to do... The Prime Minister has to do certain things. Like, he's got to nominate bishops and archbishops of the Church of England. And he's expected to assist the monarch in a public reading of the Bible on important or state occasions.
Yeah.
So... An atheist is just sitting there looking at this thing like it's rubbish. You're supposed, if you're reading in front of people, you kind of got to believe it.
Do you know what I mean?
You
can't
can't
just we know for a fact that you don't. Why are you doing it?
Yeah, exactly.
It's ridiculous. Like if I'm the first archbishop to be appointed by Keir Starmer, I'm gonna be like. So I feel like I've not even really been appointed.
Yeah, you think
who gives you the right to appoint me?
You think this is nonsense?
You actually think this is a joke? This is ridiculous. It's like when your parents play telephone with you. On the phone. Hello. Like you're taking the piss out of me, mate. You're about to get chinned.
That is so true.
It's ridiculous. But I don't think you should be allowed to be a prime minister if you're atheist. Not only just for the... Like, the anthem is God Save the King. God Save the King. Yeah. Like, you're singing that. You don't mean it. You just mean save the king.
I mean, let's be real. None of us mean it.
Well, it doesn't... Some people mean it.
You want to save the queen?
Well, I didn't say I wanted to. But I said some English people mean it. It means a lot to some English people. Like, when footballers are there...
Save the queen.
When... She saved her for a long time.
I guess so.
He saved her in the history. She's the longest reigning English monarch. But when the English football players, lined up, when they're singing the national anthem at the World Cup, there's some of them man mean it.
Well, we interoceptively believe that they mean it.
I don't even know what that means.
Well,
that might be the first word you've ever said that I didn't know what it was.
Well, if you'd read How Emotions Are Made by Lisa Feldman Barrett, you would know every word. But no, you would know that sometimes we see emotions on people's faces that they're not actually feeling. Yeah. So just like so yes, we perceive that they feel it and they mean it, but they don't. But yeah, let me go. I know I just went, but I'm going again.
Yeah, you got more than me anyway.
Exactly. When one person When one person suffers from delusion, it's called insanity. When many people suffer from delusion, it's called religion. That's so rude.
100%. It's incredibly
blasphemous,
incredibly condescending as well.
He's not,
but you know, atheists feel that they are entitled to condescend. But it's like at
the end of the Muslims.
Yeah, exactly.
They're gonna pick on. You notice he didn't touch none of Islam. You know, he said I'm gonna stick to Christianity because it's what I know best. That's not a good enough reason to stick to Christianity.
Yeah, no, it's you not, because you need to talk about the whole.
He doesn't want to get beheaded. That's why.
Definitely not.
That's
which means he's a smart man. Salman Rushdie. Salman Rushdie. He's a smart man. Though. He's a smart man.
Let's pick on the weaklings.
Keep your mouth closed.
He didn't say nothing about
Islam. Gone.
He didn't say nothing.
That's how you know they stand on business. That's what you know. They literally said, "You want to mock religion? Go for it.
Try it.
We here." the word Islam come out your mouth, we're involved.
He really didn't.
He said, all man's got to say around me.
In Mexico, members of the church were exempt from a law that everybody else had to follow. They were allowed to take a hallucinogenic drug that they believed to help them talk to God. Of course, they didn't have to show any proof, and it was their word taken as gospel. The Supreme Court ruled unanimously that a small congregation in New Mexico may use a hallucinogenic tea as part of a 4-hour ritual intended to connect with God. Justice in their first religious freedom decision under Chief Justice John Roberts moved decisively to keep the government out of a church's religious practice. Federal drug agents should have been barred from confiscating the tea from the Brazil-based church, Roberts wrote in the decision. The tea, which contains an illegal drug known as DMT, is considered sacred to members of blah blah blah. I can't pronounce that. Esprista Beneficite is whatever that is.
Beneficiente.
Oh. But yeah, members believe that they can understand God.
Hold on,
You are Latina. Members believe that they can understand God by drinking tea, which is consumed twice a month at 4-hour ceremonies. So, what do you think about that?
It is a little bit
arbitrary.
It sounds a little bit odd, given what we think. Justice should be about not drinking hallucinogenic tea so that we can see apparitions or whatever. So it does kind of go against what our idea of justice is, because our idea of justice should be as sober as humanly possible so that justice is done. But
no, they weren't taking the tea to do the justice. They were taking the tea to do their prayers.
Yeah, but church and in this country, church and state aren't really connected. So there's not really. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they still make you put your hand in the Bible and say you swear to tell the whole.
I was wondering that myself actually quite recently. But what do you think about it? You're the judge. You're the judge. Are you letting them take their drugs or not? Because you're letting them take their drugs.
Yeah, go for it.
So then, if you make a new religion that takes cocaine, new religion takes cocaine, I can smell God. Smell him.
Here's the funny thing. As well. Cocaine is a drug that is derived from a plant that is grown in there. So the only reason we attribute it to hedonism and drugs is because it's made into a powder and it's refined and processes are done to it. So if it's a plant that people are burning, or it's a plant that you're extracting oils from it or whatever, there is a thing in beer called hops, right?
Heard about this. I don't know.
Right, and it provides flavour and it provides aroma. It's also an antibacterial. So if anyone's ever drinking an IPA, stands for Indian Pale Ale. When the British conquered India, they wanted to drink beer in India, but couldn't survive the trip. So what they did is they put more hops into the beer so that it would last longer, and that is where the concept of an IPA comes from. Hops is a plant that is very, very similar to marijuana. Very, very similar. And I know this because I went on a tour to the Brixton Brewery the other day, and they was talking about beer, how it's made. I saw the kegs, saw everything. They gave us some pints after. But
that's why you went, really.
That's the whole reason I was there. I was like, get to the good.
Exactly, hurry up.
But yeah, no, it's there's loads of things that are probably very, very similar to drugs, and we just don't attribute them with drugs because they're not refined and processes aren't done to them for recreational purposes. So I don't even know if it would be the same.
There's opioids that we take that's good for us, example, or that are prescribed to us.
They used to apply. Don't they apply morphine in hospitals? And people use that to get high all the time, or if they can get their hands on it, I guess. I think they used to apply cocaine in hospitals as well.
Wouldn't be surprised.
So,
need to make sure this is
what, not recording?
No. I just want to make sure it can be seen. So I don't need my dad to say, "Oh, we got to do it again."
So, if you're the judge, would you let him?
No. But the only problem is, I think they had to because it infringed on their right to religion or whatnot. Yeah. So, I don't know. I think it's ridiculous.
I think part of you have a right to think it's ridiculous. So it'd be infringing on your rights if you weren't allowed to say that, for example.
Exactly. Alright, I'm going to let you go. Stop it.
Alright,
yeah.
Pascal's wager and the God bet.
Again. You love it, don't you?
Well, it's relevant.
No, we didn't speak about it.
Yeah, we did. We have spoken about it in our
No, but he did in the book as well.
Oh yeah, no, of course he had to. It's relevant. I've talked about Pascal's wager a little bit on other videos. Essentially, it is a guy philosophizing and trying to argue God's existence and whether being religious is actually smart. The way the wager goes is, if you're religious, you live your life righteously, go to church or the mosque, abstain from sex until marriage, raise good Christian children, abstain from pork, etc. Then when that inevitable time comes for you to find out if you chose correctly, you've set yourself up for as much success as there is to be had. If God does exist, you will be rewarded with eternal paradise and ease. And if God doesn't exist, then you will not know, as your spirit will just be gone. Adversely, if you ignore religion and God and live your life on your terms, i.e. full of sin, then your best bet is the never-ending oblivion of nothingness. As if God is real, he will punish your immortal soul in hell forevermore. A religious person wins the wager no matter the outcome, but a non-religious person must hope for death as their best possible outcome. Astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson made an interesting point, which was kind of regarding this, when asked to comment on God. He said, which God? And went on to explain that there are roughly 18,000 different gods. 18,000 different gods. He said, should I worship Zeus, Poseidon, Allah, Hare Krishna? You only get one chance, and almost every god has sworn to punish those who choose wrong. So this is what Neil deGrasse Tyson said, which I found incredibly...
in the book, he said that. So he literally stole it.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're all borrowing it from one another. Who knows? I don't know if Neil deGrasse Tyson wrote that or made it up, but that's what he said.
He probably reads a lot of books.
But he's another guy that talks like he wants to sound like he's the absolute dog's bollocks. He just says...
he regurgitates a dictionary. That's what he does.
Yeah,
he's
source for breakfast.
You know what he's like? He's like James May, but more intelligent. He goes around the block to explain.
But what's interesting is he's a astrophysicist. Yeah, you can't even say he's dumb.
He's qualified.
He's literally qualified.
No, but he does say some things that are.
I watch a lot of his videos. He drops bombs.
I try to avoid it, but
because you're waste time.
He's the one that when I said to you about you can't be precise. You know, you take out a ruler or a tape measure. Even if you 1 inch, it has a line that marks it, and he said that has a measurement, and he said no matter where it is, you can't be precise or whatnot.
He definitely does drop bombs. I do like watching his videos, but he definitely triggers me sometimes with how convincing he sounds about things I do not want to be convinced of.
Yeah, I found this bit very, very interesting. Scientists actually tested the power of God. They got 3 different churches to pray for patients to have a successful surgery and a quick and healthy recovery. The test involved 1,802 patients who were having a coronary bypass surgery. The patients were split into 3 groups. So group 1 received prayers and didn't know it. Group 2 received no prayers and didn't know it. Group 3 received prayers and knew it. They wanted to check the psychosemantics. Between groups 1 and 2, there was no difference. Group 3, on the other hand, the results were surprising. Knowing that you're being prayed for negatively impacts you. Group 3 had more significant complications. The findings showed that you are significantly less likely to have a smooth and successful surgery if you know that people are praying for you. Scientists believe that it's because of stress and anxiety. So, in other words, performance issues. And I mean, we've all been there.
You have.
But it's interesting to know. It's interesting to know that now. Would you advise people not to let their families know that you're praying for them?
That's a good question, but I think a better question is, what if they did recreate the exact same experiment, but they told a group of atheists that they were being prayed for before surgery, and then told a group of Christians that they were being prayed for before surgery? Do you think it would go in the opposite direction? Do you think the Christians would be like more at ease? Because I don't know who they asked.
I think Christians would definitely say they're more at ease.
They would have to say that.
Well, I mean, I do believe that they would. But I mean, if you got a priest praying for them, 100% they would feel that. But it's interesting that it would negatively impact them.
That is interesting.
It would be interesting, as you said, to find out if it negatively affects atheists. And I think most of them wouldn't give a crap either way. But at the same time, everyone says they're atheists until they're on their deathbed.
Yeah.
And they're on their deathbed.
Oh, God. Please.
Crap. Yeah. You know, they start praying. They start 100%. Praying, I promise you that. So
100%.
It would be interesting. I don't know if it would tell us anything conclusive though, because we'd find something. But what would those findings be?
In every single religious text that I've ever read, and anyway. God says, let disbelievers make their mockery because when their hour is at hand, it is my name they call out. Do you know what I mean? They don't call for science, they don't call for evolution, they don't call for Darwin, they call for me. Do you know what I mean? None of that can help you now.
Yeah, I'll believe if you just
reach for their bottle. They reach for me. So he said, let them make their mockery. I'm a very patient person.
But it's funny because one of my earliest memories is me being too sick to go to school, and my class made me a get well soon card, and that definitely made me feel better. Granted, it wasn't an operation, but I would have believed that
the concepts are very, very similar because why? Do you see what I'm saying about how atheists will be like, oh, it's make believe, and then give someone a get well soon card? A card?
Yeah.
What is a card meant to do?
If not
you get a woman flowers to show you love her. What is that meant to be?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So we live our lives based on symbols or concepts that we've invented, or feelings that we have, and it just gets the lens gets narrowed to religion, and they act like that we're computers. They act like atheists are like computers. The atheists look at religious people like they're AI and humans are humans, and they're like you're so stupid. I'm so superior to you, human. It's like we do it.
Yeah, but we are.
We do it in every facet of our lives. Get well soon card.
How many you got left?
I've actually got one left. That is a great point about the get well soon card, though. I'm going to reuse that.
Well, okay.
I had another one, but you already said it. You almost said it word for word.
Yeah, all right. Let me say it again then, because it's one you've kind of said already.
We're so organised.
Well, because you made me.
No, here we go. Finger pointing. Finger pointing about to start.
Skip that. I can't remember. All right. Let me say with this. Why do we believe in God? Because of group selection. A group that believes that there's an afterlife. The warriors who unshakably believe that killing the enemies of their god will guarantee their spot in paradise, which is probably filled with virgins, will fight harder for longer, and they will willingly give up their lives if necessary. They are more likely to survive in intertribal warfare, steal the enemy's livestock and women, and this produces a new generation of children who will grow up to believe in the same god. So it's interesting how we're predicated to believe in religion because we're easily fooled. So if you're the king, for example, or you rule the land, it's better for you, your people. It's better for you if your people are religious. They're more likely to be subordinate. Not just that, but they'll fight harder for you because they think you're good and you're fighting evil. So they're gonna fight harder for you. So it's not even about them worshipping you. But it's about them thinking about the afterlife and the rewards that they're going to get and whatnot. Yeah. But one thing I've always thought about is, why don't you religious people rejoice when you're on your deathbed? You've done a good job. You're definitely going into heaven.
How do you know they don't?
Well, I think a lot of people are crying. They don't want to. And all right, put it this way. How about this then? When your family dies, you're not happy. But they say it's a celebration of life, but no one's happy.
Right, no one's happy. But exactly. What even is happy? Why aren't we happy? Are we exclusively happy when good things happen? Exclusively sad when bad things happen? I don't necessarily think I would say that's the case.
Are you happy?
I'm thinking about it now. Ecstatic.
Is there really part of you that's like, I wish he's not doing this?
Man, slip that one in as if I wasn't going to notice, Pause.
But yeah.
Oh, you know what? Sorry to cut you off. You know what someone said at work today? Because obviously I was working on the coffee station and somebody was steaming the milk. And you know what he said? He literally said, I'm going to show him this clip so he knows that I've clocked him as well. He literally said, he said, I pump out milk, no problem. I said, what the fuck? But, yeah, so, what was your question?
No, it was a ridiculous question. It's not. The point is, there are things that you can just be happy. And if they're going to live for eternity with God, then there's nothing. This life means nothing.
I personally think there are people like that. So
there's got to be some.
Yeah, exactly. So I think
like
that.
But most normal people. No, but the normal believers. I mean, even look. I think the most devout believers. If they have a baby and the baby don't make it, they're in bits. I'm sorry.
I don't know if I would say that.
Really?
I really don't know if I would say that. So there's been people, that have heard. Yeah, you got cancer, 6 weeks, inoperable, and they're like, God's plan. It's part of God's plan. God has a better plan for me. Yeah. He's got a better plan.
But when it's me, then it's okay. I think there's people. I think there's probably a few people. But when it's you or it's someone else You know, they're not feeling hot.
I personally think the emotions, you can't really trust them, so it doesn't say as much about what they believe as you might think. So, for example, I'll give you an example, right? I'll give an example, right? Maybe you win the lottery and I'm angry. Why am I angry? You're my brother. Jealous? I should want good things for you. Exactly. You can't really trust your emotions. Your emotions aren't necessarily the emotions you express or you think you feel aren't necessarily indicative of who you are as a person.
Means then.
Well, maybe I know what it means. You couldn't define it, but I understood the concept of it. But yeah. So for example, let's say even somebody gave you a lottery ticket as a present. You said, "Why the hell would I want this stupid scratch card? Here you go, Joseph." And then I win a triple rollover, $58 million.
You wouldn't see that money. I'm telling
you wouldn't see me. You wouldn't see me again ever. You think I'm doing this stupid podcast? I got all that moolah. But yeah, no.
Question of the day.
The question of the day is where's Joseph gone? But yeah,
I'll be here by myself.
Literally, pause the video right now. Go on, and you get to the upper chair.
Pause the video right now. Go and find. All right, go
on. Are scientists and priests opposites? Both learn things out of books and they tell you how to live your life. Priests tell you to fear God and repent for your sins, come to church and make some donations to the church. Scientists tell you, forget that religion mumbo jumbo, you should really be worried about climate change. The earth is dying and if we don't raise $6 billion for experimental clean energy solutions, we'll all die. Funny that, isn't it? They seem to all the world as opposites when they're doing the exact same thing. So I just feel like it's funny because, scientists and priests probably laugh at one another. I mean, we imagine.
Well, we definitely
what would their perspectives and others be? And, the priests would just be like, no, those godless infidels. They're so, invested in their tools and their machines. They don't know what's really important. And meanwhile, the scientists are like, those religious mumbo jumbo. Because, what do you do when Jehovah's Witness knock at your door and ask you for a moment to talk about?
Close the door. If you accidentally open the door, you're like, oh, for God's sake.
But yeah, it's like that's the perspective on religious people.
Coming back in it.
They both
smell. Please.
They both, read stuff out of books and tell you how you should be feeling and what you should be thinking. And you would think people who are so similar would like each other, or they would come together over their similarities instead of separating their differences.
About things we don't give a fuck about.
We don't care
because regardless, there's a billion planets.
Listen, no one cares. No one knows. No one cares to know. There's literally however many planets there are in the universe. I've still got to go to work tomorrow. So anything that does not change whether I have to go to work tomorrow is not going to be number one on my list of priorities.
I want to know how much time you could spend on a planet. Let me formulate this question. How much seconds or how much time could you spend on a planet, or would you only be able to spend on a planet if you had to visit all billion planets?
How much time in your lifetime? I think regardless of the time, regardless of how short that time was,
let's say you could let's say you could teleport, so there was no traveling time. How much time? What's the maximum amount of time you could spend on a planet to visit all billion planets in the universe?
You probably wouldn't be able to see anything on any of the planets.
You'd just be like,
you would literally just have to teleport to the last one.
Oh, and then you'd die on the first one because there's no oxygen anyway. Imagine you had a genie. I want to visit all billion planets, and he's like, your body just going.
Start with Venus. Start with Venus. Burn immediately.
Oh gosh.
Them genie movies. The joke is always that you wish for some stuff you don't actually want.
Exactly. I wish for a little brother. Yeah. I think everyone said that. Don't do it. I forgot. You've said that one already, so I'm just gonna say my last one, which is...
Yeah, we can lie anyways.
Yeah, I know, right? People in the psychiatric ward believe that God told them to do it, or that they are the spirit of Charlie Chaplin or some other nonsense, and we humour them, but don't take their internal beliefs seriously. The only way religious experiences are different is that people who claim that are numerous. Otherwise, they are insane or mad, psychotic or delusional. Clearly, there is sanity in numbers. And again, that's kind of what I said before, but that's rude as well. But it's philosophical, at least.
It's condescending.
Yeah.
It's definitely condescending.
I want to answer your question, and I'm going to end with the quote of the day, because as you said, we're losing the lie. Is the burqa the ultimate symbol of female oppression?
The ultimate symbol of female oppression.
Sorry, that's not really the question. I'm going to ask you again. Is the burqa a symbol of female oppression?
I believe it probably is. It probably is now. I don't think it was intended to be. I don't think that's the function of it. But not to go on exactly. Not to go on for too long. Not to go on for too long. But I was talking to my dad about this yesterday. He said that it was a conservative minister who said the other day that people who shout Allahu Akbar in the street should be arrested. That's what he said. He said we should arrest people who shout Allahu Akbar in the street. And I was like, that's understandable because...
Is it?
The reason
I didn't think you was going to say that.
Yeah, but the reason I said it's understandable is because, like, why would you do that as a Muslim? You've gone into the street, Elijah, gone to the street, you shouted out Allahu Akbar. What are you doing?
Well, put it this way, right? Not only is Allahu Akbar means God is the greatest, right?
Yeah,
all right. But sometimes they say... People say, I just want to go outside and shout at the top of my lungs. That's when you know something's true. You know, some people say, oh, I love you, or I love this. You know, you never heard that?
I've never felt the urge to
no,
go into
of course. But there are people that, I mean, look, think about it. When you lead, if you were to win the lottery, you would, yes.
Oh, yeah, of course.
When Chelsea score, or whatever rubbish team you support, yes. So... if you really are a believer, God comes above that.
Yeah, of course.
So,
having said that, if you went to the street and shouted "God is the greatest" in English, that's one thing. Probably nothing would happen to you. I said, if you go into the street and you shout Allahu Akbar, knowing people do that before terrorist attacks. Well, maybe you're trying to start trouble.
Well, maybe
you're trying to start trouble.
You're trying to change the narrative.
You're trying to change
if
what narrative?
If we got used to people shouting Allahu Akbar, we wouldn't die for cover anymore.
Yeah, we would. Oh, I would. You stay there.
Let me end with the quote of the day.
Yeah, go on.
Which is quite fitting. Quote of the day: it's always a man's responsibility to feed a woman. The last time a woman fed a man, we got kicked out of the Garden of Eden.
That's a great quote. I'm definitely stealing it.
So yeah, that's why the men are the breadwinners, because you can't trust a woman.
You can't.
But yeah, with that being said, we really got to go. So stay disbelieving. Till next time.